Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you all had a good Christmas and New Year. We're just under a week away until the new patch, so I thought I'd do one last guide on the best comp to climb with in the current meta. So let's get into it. This first comp is one of, if not the strongest comp in the patch, which means it's also the most contested by a long mile in nearly every rank. For this comp to work, you have to have great econ and hit level 8 before or at the same time as everyone else in order to be able to hit Ahri and Blitz. You want to be hitting level 8 at around 4-1 or 4-2 at the latest. Any stage after that and you're most likely going to be too late, as at least one other player will be going for this in your game. Augments you want to look out for in this comp are any of the strong AP related ones such as Jeweled Lotus or Unleashed Arcana, or any econ augments such as Escort Quest to allow you to hit level 8 as fast as possible. Itemization on Ahri is also very important, so you can also look at augments such as Young, Wild and Free to help you guarantee the items you need. Itemization should be of course Ahri and prioritising Blue Buff and Nash's Tooth over Gunblade, as this will allow her to cast much more often. The other unit you want to itemize is most likely Blitz, but it could also be any other Sentinel you manage to 2-star first. You ideally want any of the utility tank items like Ionic Spark and Sunfire Cait. The early game options are quite flexible. Corki or Annie are great item holders for Ahri, and then you can put in any other frontline units such as Sentinels, Guardians or Bruisers. You want to prioritise econ over everything else, so don't hold on to any 3 costs if you can make 10 gold in the early stages. Remember, your goal is to get to level 8 before everyone else, so if that means playing a weak board to lose streak, then you should do that. Going into the mid game, some strong boards to play are either KDA or Spellweavers, and look at holding or slotting in any Sentinels you find ready for your transition at level 8. You should be aiming to hit level 7 at around stage 3-5, with at least 40 gold to spare to put you in a good spot to hit level 8 at 4-1 or 4-2. Going into the late game, as I said before, you want to be leveling to 8 at around stages 4-1 to 4-5, and rolling all of your gold for Ahri and any Sentinels you find. You'll be stable once you hit either an Ahri or Blitz headliner, but depending on how strong the lobby is, you may be stable with just an Ahri and Blitz 1, with other 2-starred Sentinels. If you manage to hit, it's pretty much a guaranteed top 4, and then you can econ back up and either go level 9 or do another roll down at stage 5-1 to 2-star any units you haven't already. Pivoting from this comp has a few different options, but the easiest one is the vertical KDA board. It's not as strong as the Sentinel version, but it's still strong enough to top 4 as long as you have a 2-star Ahri. This next comp is very strong if you manage to hit it early, but can struggle to top 4 if you take too long to 3-star Jax. For that reason, I only play this comp if I naturally find at least 2 copies of Jax early on, and no one else is contesting the comp. This comp really shines with the EDM version of the Jax headliner, but you can still top 4 with the 6 Mosher version too. You want to make sure you position Jax in front of the enemy carry backline without being directly in front of them, else he will get instantly nuked, especially by the Sentinel Ahri comp I just went through. Augments you want to be looking out for are any reroll or survivability related. As Jax is a melee carry, he will be a big target in the front line, so any augments that can help with survivability work very well. The standout augment I would be looking out for is the Mosh augment, Submit to the Pit, as it gives your Moshers some extra stats, as well as in giving you a free Jax to hit him quicker. Other than those, any reroll augments such as Army Building and Prismatic Ticket to hit Jax quicker will work well. Itemization for Jax is JG to allow his ability to crit, and then Titans for some extra tank stats. The third item, you can flex any item to give him healing such as Hodge, BT and Hextech Gunblade. Second item priority should be Zac with the usual utility tank items to shred and wound the team. Just make sure to put Jax next to whoever you put the Ionic Spark next to. For the early game, getting Jax in the opening rounds is a big sign to look at going for this comp, and then playing him with any early Moshers such as Vi and Gnar. Heartsteel is also another good option as it allows you to get extra loot whilst leveling up to 6. Be sure to be constantly scouting in the early stages to ensure no one else is contesting you before committing. Going into the mid game, you want to hit level 6 and then slow roll for 3-star Jax. Depending on the headliner version you get, you can either play around 4 Mosher or full EDM. You want to stay at level 6 until you 3-star Jax, and if you haven't hit by 4-2, you'll have to go all in and roll all of your gold for it, else you'll be too far behind on health to survive the later rounds. Once you hit 3-star Jax, you should focus on leveling to 8 and rolling for the additional 4 and 5-star Moshers or EDM units like Yorick, Zed, Zac and Poppy. The rest of the game should just be focused on scouting whoever you're fighting next, and positioning your EDM units on the right side so that Jax's ability hits as many enemy units as possible. Pivoting from this comp is very difficult as you need to commit early on, but you can look at skipping 3-star Jax to go for a level 8 and using Zed as your main EDM carry with 80 items. This next comp is one I've covered before and hasn't changed much since then. This is a 3-cost reroll comp with Yone as your main carry mixed with CrowdDivers, Edgelords and Pentakill. Similarly with the Jax reroll comp, you only want to go for this if you naturally find copies of Yone early on, and even better if you manage to activate Heartsteel early on too. The headliner you want is of course Yone, and ideally with the +1 to CrowdDiver, but if you find the Edgelord variant, you can look at going 5 Edgelord without it making a huge difference to your overall placement. Augments you want to be looking out for are any reroll or survivability related. As this is a melee carry composition, your carry is a big target in the front line, so any augments that can help with survivability work well. The standout augment I'd be looking out for is Vampirism, as it provides so much value and scales as you get later into the game. If you find Not Today or Idealism, then they both give great survivability, and you can look at building additional ones to put on Zed. For itemization, you want to prioritize survivability items on Yone such as BT, Hodge and Titans, but items such as QSS and Edge of Night work just as well. Prioritizing survivability AD items over pure AD items will work much better, as he already does enough damage. The secondary carry you can itemize once you've finished itemizing Yone is Zed. However, if you do get the Edgelord headliner of Yone, then you should look to itemize Viego, and he will be much stronger than Zed if you go for 5 Edgelord. For the early game, some good openers to look out for are either Superfan, Edgelord or Pentakill, as these all have good item holders for Yone and slot in well to end the composition as you're leveling up. Level up to 4 at 2-1 unless you have a lot of pairs and don't find a good headliner in the opening 3 rounds. Your main goal is to play the strongest board you can until you get the mid game where you can find your key units. Going into the mid game, you want to follow a standard leveling strategy until you hit level 7, this being level 6 at 3-2, 7 at 4-1. From there you want to slow roll for Yone 3. The lobby is fairly weak, you can look at putting in Heartsteel for some extra loot whilst you're slow rolling, but don't try this if you're losing rounds drastically, as you'll most likely be unable to recover once you hit 3-star Yone. Once you do manage to 3-star Yone, you should look to level to 8 and try to find your 4 and 5 cost CrowdDive units to cap your board. A 3-star Yone without your board cap should still be a top 4, but getting the 4 CrowdDiver trait active should get you much higher placements. A comp you can pivot to if contested is another one I'm going to go through at the end of this video, which is 8-bit Riven. This is where you can use Riven as your 3-star main carry and Yone as your secondary carry that you don't 2-star because you're contested. This is also a very strong comp, but will most likely just lose out to Yone 3-star in terms of higher placements. This next comp is my favourite in this meta, as it's very flexible in the front line it can play and doesn't need to use Sentinels, which is highly contested right now. It uses Caitlyn and Ezreal as your duo carries, with any 4-cost frontline you can find, and Big Shot or Rapid Fire unit to activate the trait if needed. It doesn't matter what headliner you get as long as it's Ezreal or Cait, and rolling down at 8 for them is very simple as you pick up any frontline units you can find along the way. As it uses 2 AD carries, you will need to find lots of AD items to make this work, as well as any mana generating items such as Blue Buff or Shojin. Augments you want to look out for this comp are any of the strong combat related ones such as Vampirism and Blustering Strikes, or any econ augments such as Escort Quest to allow you to hit level 8 as fast as possible. Frontline augments such as Crash Test Dummies or Cybernetic Bulk are also great, as it will allow you to be greedier with your frontline itemization in favour of AD items. You want to prioritise itemization of your headliner unit, whether that be Cait or Ezreal. Ezreal really needs a mana generation item such as Blue Buff, and Caitlyn is one of the best units for Red Buff, but both need an Infinity Edge to give their abilities a chance to crit. The third item is flexible, and any AD related items such as Hodge or GS are good options. The early game options are quite flexible. Corki or Jinx are great item holders for the early stages, and then you can put in any other frontline units such as Sentinels, Guardians or Bruisers. You want to prioritise econ and health, so just play your strongest board whilst trying to make your interest thresholds. Similar to the Ahri comp, your goal is to get to 8 as soon as possible. Going into the mid game, some strong boards to play are either Big Shots or Rapid Fires with a strong front line. You should be aiming to hit level 7 around stage 3-5, and if you can get Heartsteel in for the extra econ or loot, then this will really help at level 8 once you roll down for your main board. Going into the late game, you want to be leveling to 8 around stages 4-2 to 4-5, and rolling all of your gold for Ezreal and Caitlyn. You'll be stable once you hit either of them as a headliner plus some 2-star frontline units, but depending on how strong the lobby is, you may want to look at continuing to roll your gold after every round to hit a stable board. Depending on the headliner you hit, you want to slot in different units to activate the traits. For example, if you hit Rapid Fire Caitlyn, you want to put in Jhin or MF for Big Shot, but if you hit Big Shot Ezreal, you want to put in Senna or Sappheiros for Rapid Fire. You can pivot from this comp into a very strong 6 true damage comp if you manage to find a spat to turn into a true damage emblem and put it onto Caitlyn or Ezreal. The Caitlyn version is slightly stronger, but both can easily get a top 4. And finally, similar to the first comp we went through, we have a 3-cost melee carry comp with Riven as your main carry and Yone as your secondary carry. As I mentioned for that comp, this one is really for when you're contested with Yone and need a backup, but you can also play this if you find early Rivens or a strong start with 8-bit, such as hitting a 2-star Garen before level 6. This has spiked in popularity in China recently and has now slowly started showing up in other regions, but it's still fairly underplayed and should be an easy comp to hit. Similar augment suggestions to the Yone CrowdDive comp, any reroll or survivability augments are great here. March of Progress is also a great choice if you see it, as it allows you to slow roll for your 3 costs at level 7 while still leveling up. Itemization is exactly the same as the first, but instead of your priority being Yone, it should be Riven, and we swap out Hodge for QSS. As Riven has a built-in shield, it's important she isn't CC'd, so she can get her ability off. Similar to the Yone comp for early game starts, apart from with this comp you want to look out for any 8-bit starts. Corki is a great opening headliner which can hold any AD items, and Garen is a great holder for items such as Titans. For the mid game, follow the same leveling strategy as the Yone comp and look to activate either 5 Edgelord or 4 8-bit depending on the Riven headliner you get. Try to position your Riven and Yone together in the mid game rounds as they can melt the enemy frontline. Once you hit 3-star Riven, you want to level to 8 and put in both 5 Edgelord and 4 8-bit to cap out your board. If you're uncontested with Yone, you can also look to 3-star him, which will pretty much guarantee a 1st or 2nd, but this should be a pretty reliable top 4 with just Riven 3. The pivot comp for this is the Yone comp, as they're both very similar and can be switched very quickly. I'd suggest switching to the Yone comp if you come across a Yone headliner and stamp 3-starred Riven, as the average placement of that comp is slightly higher than this one. And that's it for this guide. I hope you enjoyed the meta so far. I'll be looking at making another one of these once the new patch drops next week, so be sure to subscribe to be notified when that comes out.